Hello, amazing viewers. Have you ever heard the saying, not all that glitters is gold? Today's story will take you on an emotional journey of love, betrayal, pride, and redemption. It's a tale of a father's pride, a mother's ambition, and the devastating consequences of forcing decisions on someone's life. If you are here for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share your comments, your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive in. Ifya was the pride of her family, smart, ambitious, and kind-hearted. She worked as a teacher, adored by her students, and respected in her community. But her father, Mr. Boateng, wasn't satisfied. To him, Ifya wasn't just his daughter, she was a symbol of their family's prestige and wealth. Mr. Boateng was the wealthiest man in the town of New Daru. He owned several businesses, from a chain of restaurants to a fleet of transport trucks. People in the town called him the King of New Daru because his word carried weight in every decision that mattered. Ifya's mother, Madam Sewa, was equally influential, leading a women's group filled with wives of wealthy men. Her friends often bragged about their children marrying into prominent families, and she wasn't about to let Ifya ruin their reputation by marrying beneath her. Ifya's heart, however, belonged to Kwame, a simple but hard-working mechanic who owned a modest repair shop in the town. Kwame wasn't rich, but he had a kind soul and big dreams. Ifya, one day I'll give you everything you deserve, he often would say to her. His sincerity warmed Ifya's heart, but her parents couldn't see past his dirty overalls and calloused hands and dirty feet from his job. One evening, after a long day at work, Ifya came home to find her father seated in the living room with a man she barely recognized. Kofi Mensah. Kofi was tall, polished, and charming, dressed in an expensive tuxedo suit and shiny leather shoes. Ifya, meet Kofi, her father said with a proud smile. He's from the Mensah family, the owners of the biggest cocoa export business in the region. He's been asking of you. Ifya raised an eyebrow, asking about me. Why? Her father leaned back in his chair, his voice firm. But because he wants to marry you, and I've already started making arrangements. Ifya's heart sank. Papa, I'm not marrying him. I love Kwame. Mr. Boateng's face darkened. Kwame, that mechanic, are you for real? Do you want to drag our family's name through the mud? Do you know what people will say if my daughter marries Kwame? Do you know what people will say if the daughter of Mr. Boateng marries a man who fixes cars? Her mother chimed in, adjusting her gold bangles. Ifya, your father is right. Do you think I can face my women's group knowing my daughter married a mechanic? Looking at Kofi, he's educated. Look at Kofi. He's educated, he's wealthy, and well connected. He is the kind of man you deserve, as her mother told her. The days that followed were nightmare for Ifya. Her father, determined to see her marry Kofi, pulled out all the stops. He hired the best wedding planners in the region. He ordered custom houses for the entire family and even flew in a van from the capital city. Ifya's protest fell on deaf ears. Kofi, meanwhile, played the part of a perfect gentleman. He bought expensive gifts for Mr. Boateng, including gold-plated pen engraved with his initials. For Madam Sewa's birthday, he flew her and her friends a luxury resort, winning her over completely. To Efia, Kofi was fake, but to her parents, he was a dream come true for them. One evening, Kwame came to the house, desperate to plead his case. "Mr. Boateng, I love your daughter," he said, his voice trembling. I may not be worthy, but I'll work hard to give her a good life." Mr. Boateng didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Kwame, you're a good man, but you're not good enough for my daughter. Don't come here again," he said with an angry voice. Kwame just picked up his bag and left without a word. The wedding went ahead as planned. It was a grand affair with hundreds of guests and every luxury imaginable. But Efia felt like a prisoner in her own celebration. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes searched the crowd for Kwame, but he was nowhere to be found. She knew he couldn't bear to watch her marry another man. At first, Kofi seemed kind. He was attentive, indulging, sharing Efia with gifts. But once the honeymoon phase was ended, his true nature began to emerge. "You're quitting your job," he announced one morning over breakfast. Efia looked at him in disbelief. "Why? I love teaching. I love my students. I love interacting with students. This is a dream come true for me. I have always loved to be a teacher. Why would you say this?" she said. "I don't want my wife working," he said coldly. "You will stay at home and take care of the house." "But Enough," he snapped when Efia was trying to respond, slamming his fist on the table. "This isn't up for discussion." Kofi's control over Efia grew with each passing day. He monitored her calls, had a software to track her location, he forbade her from visiting her family, and locked her in the house whenever he left for work. Even when they attended social events, he dictated who she should speak to and who she should get along with. He had a spies on her even at family gatherings. As the months went by, Kofi's emotional abuse turned physical. If dinner wasn't ready on time, he would shoot at her. If he got back home and noticed the laundry wasn't done, he would beat her up. If he wanted to be intimate with her and she didn't respond, he would beat her up. If she disagreed with him, he would slap her. If he talked and if he talked back, he would beat her up. If he felt trapped, isolated from the world and completely to Kofi's mercy. One night, after a particularly violent argument, Kofi struck Efia so hard that her head hit the edge of the table. Blood spilled on the floor as she lay unconscious. Panicked, Kofi rushed her to the hospital, lying to the nurses that she had fallen down the stairs. The nurses, noticing Efia's bruises, grew suspicious and called the police. When questioned, Kofi's lies quickly unraveled, and he confessed to years of abuse. Efia's family was informed, and for the first time, Mr. Boateng saw the devastating consequences of his pride. He arrived at the hospital to find his daughter unconscious, her face swollen, with bruises all over, and her body frail. "What have I done?" he whispered. with tears streaming down his face. Ifya survived the trauma, but at the end, this trauma caused her to lose her memory. She didn't recognize her family or recall the events that led to the injuries. Kofi was eventually sentenced to prison, and Mr. Boateng was left to pick up the pieces. He became a shadow of his former self, humbled by guilt. He took time to think through all his decisions, what he had led his daughter into. He couldn't forgive himself. He was thinking about what would have happened if he had allowed his daughter to marry someone she truly loved and someone who truly loved his daughter. He would ask himself all the time, was I really focusing on the status of my family? Was I really focusing on the wealth of my family? Was I really focusing on the pride my family would have if my daughter had married this guy? He just couldn't forgive himself. He just couldn't. He felt so sad at what he had done. He said to himself, all the time, I thought I was doing something right. He visited Ifya every day, begging for her forgiveness. Ifya, I thought I was giving you the best life. I always thought so. But I noticed I only brought you pain. Forgive me, Ifya. Forgive me for causing you this much pain. I am so sorry, Ifya. This wasn't my intention. And for Ifya's mother, Auntie Sewa, she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe what was happening to their only daughter and the result of her actions. This story reminds us that love cannot be measured by wealth or status. True happiness comes from mutual respect and understanding, not forced decisions driven by pride. Parents, listen to your children. Parents, show your children that you truly love for them by listening to them and listening to them well. Their happiness should not come from societal expectations, should not come from your pride, should not come from your status in society. But their happiness should come from you, listening to them and having a conversation about what they truly want and knowing what is best for them. If this story really moved you, please like, subscribe, and share to bless others. And don't forget to put in the comment section the lesson you learned from this story. Thanks for watching.